If you're applying for jobs on LinkedIn, you're not really hearing anything back, it's probably not because you're unqualified. It might be because you're just not using the right strategies for LinkedIn to separate yourself from all of the competition that is now out there because of all of these mass layoffs. If you're just doing things like scrolling and easy applying for everything and not changing your resume at all, stuff like that, not filtering jobs properly, you may struggle to have success. So the point of this video is to help you get found by recruiters, increase your response rate, and position yourself for higher quality roles that you are actually trying to get. So this can actually work for either entry-level job seekers or mid-level job seekers as well. So here are a bunch of different strategies you can use to help improve your chances of getting something through LinkedIn. So one thing you might consider doing is changing your headline and not making it like a biography, but more specific to what you're looking for. So one thing that can hurt you is one of the very first things that recruiters might see, which is your headline. This might sound obvious, but you can actually hurt your chances quite a bit by having a weak headline. Now, mine is not the best example because I am someone who is a business owner. Therefore, I am not over here trying to get jobs on LinkedIn right now. But if I was an employee, if I was a career employee, I would definitely be doing things quite a bit differently. So what I would be doing is if I started looking for a job, which I have done in the past, what I would do is I would change all of this to where I'm not looking to show people that are just like fans of my YouTube channel or whatever, like who I am. But what I would do is I would change this to the specific type of roles I'm looking for, but also numbers. So for instance, I would change it to say, instead of something like that, to something like B2B marketing specialist, paid ads and funnel optimization, increased lead gen 42%. So you could have like some statistics of what you have actually accomplished, what results you actually have gotten. And then something like, B2B marketing specialist, a very specific type of role. It doesn't have to be like the exact role because they're going to vary from company to company what they call it. But that instantly qualifies you for a certain type of role that can be grouped together in that category. So instead of something that's more of a vibe or kind of generalized, they look for specific skills and specific outcomes. Like for instance, maybe you can track, maybe you have something in your resume you can put in here like how you increased results in whatever area you're working in by this percentage. Now, another thing you might consider doing is maxing out your skills section, because this seemingly, from my research, has become a lot more prominent on LinkedIn for how you get found is through your skills. So you can put your skills here. Obviously, you'll still have like your latest job or whatever your current title is, but you can literally have up to 100 skills on here, and you can be very specific. So you can have one skill that says, say, graphic design, which is kind of a general skill, but then you have something like a specific tool that you are really good with. If you look at a lot of job applications, you'll notice that a lot of them mention the specific tools that they already work with, and they want somebody who already knows how to use those tools instead of having to wait for them to learn how to use a new tool. So if one company uses Canva and another one uses Figma, the one that wants Canva will see your skills and they'll probably look at, well, do you have Canva as a skill? Not just graphic design, which is like, well, obviously if you're applying for a graphic design job, you know how to do graphic design, but do you know that specific software or that specific tool that we use at our company? You can also get verification badges for maybe like your top 5 skills as well, but either way, maximize your skills so that they can find these, and then you can give yourself a much better chance when you're looking for jobs. Now, another thing you might want to do that may seem obvious, but a lot of people might overlook or they use it in the wrong way, is the about section. What you want to do is just have like a couple of solid paragraphs here. The first one, what you actually do. It's clear, it's direct, it's outcome focused. And the second one, you might want to put some actual metrics that you impacted at your past company. You might have increased customer support happiness scores by 20%, or you might have lowered the response time on average by 10%, or whatever it is, something that relates to your past job and how you did something that is a number, a percentage that actually impacted the company in a positive way that leads to them making more money, which is why you are there. This could be internship results, academic projects, certifications, even freelance wins. You don't have to just be a full-time job and only that. There are other things you can do as well. I've actually gotten remote jobs in the past without having hardly any references from other actual companies. I've mostly been an entrepreneur my whole life. If you want to have a third paragraph in your about section, you might want to put specifically what you are looking for so that recruiters are not having to guess, because a lot of times that means they will guess wrong. They cannot read your mind. So for instance, if I were to rewrite an about section like this using these 3 types of paragraphs, you can see how it might change a little bit. Basically, it's talking about what I do specifically that's actionable, that brings results to companies. Proof that I have actually done these things. You can see like how many subscribers I've gotten, or how many people I've referred to certain, or how much engagement I've gotten on a certain platform, and what tools I use to do it. And then the third paragraph would be something like what I'm looking for specifically and why. So this is kind of like an example of what this could actually look like. So when you actually go to apply for jobs, you might not want to rely too much on Easy Apply. This is actually considered low leverage. I've never even seen good results from Easy Apply on other platforms as well, like something like Glassdoor. So I'm not really the biggest fan of Easy Apply in general on any sort of job platform. But after you apply, one thing you can do is find someone within the company to message or to connect with. It could be the hiring manager, a team lead, or a head of department, something that is related to your position. So if you were to find one of those types of positions at the company related to your job that you're applying for, you could say like, hi, whatever their name is, I just applied for this role. I have experience in X and recently achieved result. If helpful, I'd love to share how I could support your team. So this could just be one extra step that most people that are too lazy would not take, and maybe give you a little bit of a better chance of getting noticed. So another thing you can do is apply for the most recent jobs. And when I say most recent, I mean as recent as possible, like the last 24 hours or the past week. So you can do this if you just type in the type of job you want. Once you go to jobs, you can just type a random job in there, whatever you're looking for, and then you can go to date posted at the top here. And instead of doing any time and wasting a lot of time, or past month, that would probably waste a lot of time as well, you can do past 24 hours or past week. So you can see it narrows down the results quite a bit. You have 1,000 plus with any time, and then if you do past 24 hours, you're narrowing down to 252 in this specific case. So what you can do is apply for the ones that are the most recent. Within 24 hours would be great. A lot of them only take a certain amount of applicants, and a lot of them see mostly the top few applicants. So instead of your application being buried under hundreds of others, this can actually get you towards the top of the list. Now, another cool thing that is somewhat useful about LinkedIn jobs, and a lot of people have their critiques about it, but they do have a way for you to search like types of companies or by company name, things like that. You can search by a type of company's industry instead of just searching one job title at a time, or this type of job. So instead of searching, say, marketing jobs, you can search software as a service companies. So SaaS companies, for instance, as you can see, I typed that in, narrowed it down to the past 24 hours, also narrowed it down to remote because a lot of people watching this channel want to work remotely. And then it comes up with all these jobs, and right now it looks like we have about 336 results or so for this criteria. So obviously there's a lot of software as a service companies. This is another thing where sometimes the company culture fits what you do better than just looking for the specific job type. For instance, as someone in my scenario who has a mostly entrepreneur background, if I was looking for a job right now, I would want to find companies that are looking for an entrepreneurial spirit. You may have seen that in certain job applications. It's something that I've seen more and more, especially with remote jobs. They want someone that has that entrepreneurial, nose to the grindstone type of work ethic. Someone who's had to have their own business and only got paid for results. So I would want to look at certain types of companies in some cases and do some research on which ones have that mentioned in their description for an entrepreneurial spirit. That's just one random example. I know it won't apply to everyone watching this, but you can search by other things than just the job title, in other words. It might also help you find a better home long term if you work at a company where you're actually interested in what they do. Now, if you go to the open to section on your account on LinkedIn, sometimes people will tell you, like recruiters will tell you not to use the open to work suggestion. What you can do is turn it into recruiter only visibility mode, set specific job titles, and you can also add some realistic salary expectations, which of course you can use by either your past roles or just doing a quick Google search of what the average pay range is for those roles in your country. So this would basically attract recruiters to come to you instead of you having to do all the active searches. So you could put open to finding a new job, for instance, and then you would put more information about what job titles, location types. Like if I was only willing to work remotely, I would put only remote, and then maybe uncheck these other options. Start date, locations, some of them are international. And then you can also do, like, if you're doing remote, it'll probably be by your specific country rather than a specific city. So then you can go start date, flexible, immediately, full-time, part-time contract, all that stuff. But this section right here is where you do the recruiters only. And then you can set all of these other requirements here. So it's not just broadcasting to everyone that you're looking for a job, because sometimes that can come across as desperate. Now, you do not have to rewrite your resume every time, but it is important in some cases to at least have a few different variations of it for like categories of jobs. So one thing you can actually do, like what I would do, for instance, as someone who has a lot of experience in digital marketing, content marketing, running a business, etc. If I was looking for jobs, what I would do is I would have different types of roles that I'm applying for where they're at least pretty close to what I'm experienced in. Maybe some of them are a little more of a stretch than others, and some of them might be exactly in line with what I would do. And then I would tailor a different resume that's about 20% different in the wording and the skills that I specifically focus on, while keeping everything under about 2 pages. So as you can see in this example, I would have, say, a social media resume, a digital marketing resume. Those jobs can be very different. Then I'd have a list of which jobs I would do for each one, like a list of maybe 10 or a dozen or so jobs that would actually relate to those. And then you could have like a sales-based resume if I was going to apply for something more sales related. And then you could have an AI resume. There's a lot of new AI jobs. So yeah, I could, if I wanted to try and use my AI experience, I would have, maybe my custom GPT or go and just rewrite it myself, just kind of what the recruiter might be looking for specifically for more of an AI job rather than a digital marketing job. And then I would use that for anything that looks like one of these job titles in this category. So you can build a spreadsheet to just kind of organize your resume like that. And then you don't have to necessarily change it for every single time and every single role. You can do that. But what I would do is at least have a few variations for the different types of jobs you're applying for, because some days you may not be able to find a lot of the specific job title that you absolutely want. You might have to, depending on your situation, depending on how fast you need to get hired, you might have to take something that's a little bit of a pivot. So if I was making this resume and I wanted to rewrite it, I would especially change like the key skills. I would maybe reword the summary to use some of the same language that would maybe exemplify what I see in the application page. Experience, I would highlight the experience in the beginning, the first few bullet points that are most relevant to that specific type of job. So for instance, if I was going more sales, I wouldn't put as much about social media in here. I would talk about how I impacted sales through my experience more than just, I make this type of social media content and I got this many views. Instead, I would talk about my impact on specifically sales. Now, another thing you might want to do is track your metrics. Now, one thing I did back when I was searching for jobs is I would track everything in a spreadsheet. I recommend doing the same thing because it actually helps you. One, you want to see like what your conversion rate is. Have you ever, like if you've ever gone on Reddit and you've seen those charts where it shows you like I had this many applications and this many responses, and then this one is where I took a job, and it shows you the numbers of like their conversion rates. Well, this is how you can keep track of that. So what you can do is just set it up like how many jobs you've applied for, how many interviews you've gotten, blah, blah, blah. I actually removed a lot of information from this because just for the privacy of the companies and for myself. But I added a few different like example job titles, and then you can put the name of the company, of course, that you applied for. I would recommend having like your confirmation link. A lot of them will have a confirmation link or a confirmation email that you can put in this section. You applied, yes. Did you use a cover letter or not? No, yes, whatever, just depending on that situation. Sometimes then you can go back and look at, well, did I have a better conversion rate on the ones that did or did not have a cover letter? what date you applied. All of this is also important. If you ever had to take unemployment, I don't know, it depends on what country you're in. If your country has anything kind of similar to like an unemployment program or some sort of thing where if you lose your job and something happens, if you ever need to take something like that, they may require proof. It just depends on where you live. And this can also help with that as well. It's just another little tip there. So then you can put, your location. You can add some other things that don't really matter necessarily, but you can also put like responses. I would recommend putting like, okay, well, did they respond at all? Did they reject you? Did they have follow-up questions? Did they have a test? Did they have an interview, etc.? And then you can track with just simple formulas that adds all of that up over time. This helps you test what's working, and one of the best ways to figure out what's working is what gets measured gets improved. Just remember that quote. It pretty much applies to everything. Now, another thing I would recommend, a lot of times these places where you mass apply for jobs is a lot of these are ghost jobs. People complain about it all the time. There's a lot of fake recruiters. There's a lot of people that can scam you on LinkedIn. It's one of the reasons I didn't actually use LinkedIn all the time as my primary source of finding jobs back in the day. But not every listing is active. There's a lot of things you have to consider. Now, you also, in my opinion, it's better to verify the job is real by going and looking at the company's official page. So just as an example here, if I looked at, say, this chief of staff job at Attentive, I see this on, LinkedIn. Okay, sounds good. It was recent. Well, I can go and find their actual careers page on their actual website and verify whether this is real. You will find a lot of times that if you go and check jobs from a lot of job boards out there, that it might surprise you how some of them have a job posted on the job board, but it's not posted on the official site. So then you start questioning whether it's even real. Like this one, of course, though, they have the chief of staff CRO job here, and you can click on it. You can see it on their official site. So it also says new, which everything lines up with what you see on LinkedIn, so it's probably legit. Just be very careful. Like I said, usually when I mention jobs, I tell people it's always best to try and apply on the company's official website. Another thing is just kind of playing the long game and just having like a consistent schedule every day. If you're only job hunting, you're not, say, working a business or doing something on the side at the same time. If literally all you're doing is just trying to find a job, you might not have all the best options to apply for every day, but at least making connections on LinkedIn can lead to jobs down the line. Connecting with people, building relationships with recruiters, etc., can actually lead to you having a leg up on the competition rather than just blindly applying. So hopefully this helps. I don't necessarily recommend LinkedIn being the only place to look for jobs. I think there are plenty of other places out there, but LinkedIn is still one of the biggest. So if you are going to use it, if you do insist on using LinkedIn, there are a lot of things that you can do to improve your chances that a lot of people are not going to do because they're just kind of lazy, or they just don't know any better, or they just may not know any better. So hopefully this helps, and I'll see you in the next video.